24 hours. Minho had been fighting for a full day. His body screamed for rest. His shoulder throbbed where the plasma had burned through muscle. 3 ribs were cracked from a fall down a maintenance shaft. His hands were cut and bruised. A normal person would be in a hospital. A normal person would be dead. Minho kept moving. He had learned the ship's reactor system from Hana's intel. It was the heart of the vessel, providing power to everything. If he could create a false overload, trigger the emergency alarms, the crew would evacuate certain sections. That would give him a path to the brig. The reactor level was dangerous. High radiation. Most species could only spend minutes there, even with protective gear. Humans had evolved on a planet bathed in cosmic rays and solar radiation. They were more resistant. Not immune, but resistant enough. Minho climbed down to the lowest deck. The heat was intense. Warning signs covered every surface. He ignored them and approached the reactor controls. His hands flew over the console. He did not actually want to destroy the ship. Too many innocent crew members would die. He just needed to make them think destruction was coming. He triggered a cascade of false readings. Temperature spikes. Pressure warnings. Containment breaches that did not actually exist. The reactor looked like it was about to explode. Alarms blared across the ship. Red lights flashed. Automated voices announced evacuation procedures in the Velcrin language. Minho heard the thunder of boots as soldiers abandoned their posts and rushed toward escape pods. Perfect chaos. He climbed back up through the emergency shafts. The corridors were full of panicking Velcrin. They ran past him without even noticing. Fear had blinded them. Minho used the confusion to reach Deck 9. The brig was ahead. But Commander Rowe was waiting for him. The Velcrin commander stood in the ship's central atrium with 50 elite soldiers. They had anticipated Minho's plan. Rowe's face was calm, but his eyes burned with hatred. "Captain Kang," Rowe called out. "Your persistence is admirable. But this ends now. Surrender and I promise you a quick death." Minho stepped into the atrium. He was covered in blood and burns. His uniform was torn. He carried 2 stolen plasma rifles, both nearly empty. Against 50 fresh soldiers, he had no chance. He smiled. "You still do not understand, do you?" "Understand what?" "Humans do not surrender." "Not when our people are in danger. You took Ambassador Park. You took my team. You made this personal. And when things get personal, we become something you cannot comprehend. You are one creature," Rowe shouted. "Look around you. You are outnumbered, outgunned, wounded. How can you possibly win?" Minho dropped both rifles. "I do not need to win. I just need to last long enough." Then he charged. The Velcrin fired. Plasma bolts filled the air. Minho moved like water, ducking and weaving. His instructors had taught him that humans were persistence hunters, but they were also ambush predators when necessary. Fast, unpredictable, dangerous. He reached the first soldiers and struck with brutal efficiency. A blow to the throat, a kick to the knee joint. Velcrin were taller than humans, but their bones were lighter, more fragile. Every hit counted. More soldiers converged. Minho took hits. A plasma bolt grazed his leg. A strike caught his already broken ribs. Pain exploded through his body. He did not stop. He grabbed a fallen weapon and fired. 3 soldiers dropped. He threw the empty rifle at another, hitting him square in the face. Then he was moving again, always moving, never staying still long enough to be targeted. The Velcrin soldiers began to hesitate. They had never faced an opponent like this. Most species collapsed after the first serious injury. This human had dozens of wounds and kept fighting. It was not natural. It was terrifying. Some started to retreat. "Hold your positions," Rowe screamed. "He is just one creature. Kill him!" But fear had taken root. The soldiers fired wildly, hitting each other as often as they hit Minho. The formation collapsed. Chaos reigned. In the brig, Lieutenant Hana Cho heard the alarms. She had been working on the cell's security panel for hours, using components from her hidden earpiece. When the reactor alarm triggered, the ship's security systems briefly diverted power. That was her moment. She hacked through the final encryption and opened all the cell doors. Ambassador Park rushed out. "Lieutenant, what is happening?" "Captain Kang is buying us time. We need to reach the shuttle bay. Follow me." The human prisoners moved through the empty corridors. Most guards had abandoned their posts during the evacuation alarm. Hana led them toward the shuttle bay, but she kept thinking about Minho. He was still fighting, alone. In the atrium, Minho fell to one knee. His body had reached its limit. Blood loss, exhaustion, pain overwhelming his nervous system. He tried to stand, but his legs would not respond. Commander Rowe approached, weapon raised. Only a dozen soldiers remained, but it was enough. They surrounded Minho in a tight circle. "It is over," Rowe said. "You fought well for a primitive, but you cannot win. Your people cannot save you. Surrender." Minho looked up at him. Blood ran down his face. His breathing was labored, but his eyes were still clear, still defiant. "No. Then you will die here." "Maybe. But I already accomplished my mission." Rowe frowned. Then he heard it. A new alarm. This one was not false. Hana had not just freed the prisoners. She had accessed the ship's weapon systems and activated the internal defense grid. Automated turrets emerged from the walls throughout the ship, targeting Velcrin life signs. The ship was attacking itself. The soldiers around Minho scattered as turrets opened fire. Rowe dove for cover, shouting orders that no one followed. His perfect military machine had become a death trap. Minho used the distraction to drag himself toward the brig. Every movement was agony. His vision blurred, but he could not stop. Not yet. He reached the brig entrance. The doors were open. Empty cells. They had escaped. Relief flooded through him. A voice crackled in his earpiece. "Minho, we are at the shuttle bay." "Where are you?" "On my way," he lied. He knew he could not make it to the shuttle bay. His body was shutting down. But they needed to leave. The Coalition fleet was still hours away. The shuttle could reach them. "Captain, the ship is falling apart. We need to leave now." "Go. I will disable the weapons so the Coalition can dock safely when they arrive. Get Ambassador Park to safety." "That is an order." Silence on the line. Then Park's voice, sad, determined. "You saved us all, Captain. Earth will remember." The connection ended. Minho leaned against the wall and closed his eyes. Mission accomplished. His people were safe. That was all that mattered. He heard footsteps approaching. Slow, cautious. Ensign Boram Na appeared around the corner, his weapon lowered. "Captain Kang." Minho tried to reach for a weapon, but he had none left. "Come to finish me?" "No." Boram knelt beside him. "I came to help." "Why?" "Because you fight to protect. Commander Rowe fights to conquer. I have watched you for 24 hours. You could have destroyed this ship, killed everyone aboard, but you showed mercy, even to your enemies. That is not weakness. That is strength." Boram pulled out a medical kit, not Velcrin, but human. He must have taken it from the captured supplies. "The weapons bay is 3 decks down," Boram said as he treated Minho's wounds. "I will guide you there. But we must hurry. Commander Rowe has ordered the ship to release neurotoxin. He would rather kill his own crew than admit defeat." Minho looked at the young Velcrin. "You are committing treason." "No, I am choosing the right side." Boram helped Minho to his feet. Together they moved through the damaged ship. The unlikely alliance of human and Velcrin working toward the same goal. Survival. They reached the weapons bay. Minho set charges on the main cannon while Boram deactivated secondary systems. The work was precise and dangerous. One mistake would kill them both. Behind them, the door exploded inward. Commander Rowe stormed in with the last of his loyal soldiers. "Traitor!" he screamed at Boram. "You betray your own species for this animal?" Boram stood tall. "I betray nothing. You betrayed us when you chose pride over wisdom. This human taught me more about honor in one day than you did in years." Rowe raised his weapon. Minho stepped between them, his body swaying but his will unbroken. "Your fight is with me," Minho said.
"Leave him out of this." "Very well, Deathworlder."
"Let us end this properly, you and me. No weapons. Single combat." Rowe tossed aside his weapon. Minho did the same. They circled each other. Rowe was fresh, trained, skilled. Minho was exhausted, wounded, barely standing. But he had something Rowe lacked. The absolute refusal to lose. They clashed. Rowe fought with precision and technique. Minho fought with raw endurance and desperation. Every punch hurt both of them. Every kick cost energy they did not have. But Minho had been fighting for 24 hours. His body had learned to push past pain, past exhaustion, past every limit. Rowe collapsed first. He lay on the floor, gasping for breath, unable to continue. Minho stood over him. "Barely. Just barely." "Surrender," Minho said. "Please, no more death." Rowe looked up at him with shock and hatred and finally understanding. He nodded slowly. The battle was over. Captain Minho Kang stood at the observation window of Kronos Gate Station and watched the stars. Behind him, dozens of alien species moved through the diplomatic hub, their voices creating a strange symphony of clicks, hums, and whistles. He could feel their eyes on him, always watching, always curious about the humans. A tall, insect-like creature shuffled past him, its many legs clicking on the metal floor. It kept a safe distance. They always did. Minho was used to it by now. Humans were different. Humans came from Earth, and Earth was what the galaxy called a death world. Most aliens came from gentle planets with light gravity and stable weather. Earth was chaos. Heavy gravity that crushed fragile bones. Temperature swings that could freeze or boil water. Predators everywhere. Diseases that evolved as fast as their cures. Humans survived all of it. More than survived. They thrived. That made them scary to everyone else. Captain Kang, a voice called behind him. Ambassador Jiwoo Park approached, her formal robes flowing as she walked. The Velcrin delegation is ready for us. Minho nodded and straightened his uniform. How do you read them, Ambassador? Park frowned slightly. Cautious, interested. But there is something else I cannot identify. Stay alert. They walked through the curved corridors of the station. Minho's security team followed at a respectful distance. 2 human soldiers armed but trying to look friendly. The galaxy was supposed to be at peace, but Minho had learned long ago that peace was fragile. The conference room was large and circular, with seats adjusted for different body types. The Velcrin delegation was already there, 5 of them, wearing dark military uniforms with silver markings. They looked almost human, but taller and thinner with gray skin and large black eyes. Their commander Taiyang Ro stood as the humans entered. Ambassador Park, Captain Kang. Ro's voice was smooth, almost musical. Welcome. Please sit. We have much to discuss. Minho stayed standing while Park took her seat. His eyes scanned the room. Standard diplomatic setup. 4 exits. Security cameras in the corners. Nothing unusual. But something felt wrong. His instincts, honed through years of combat, were screaming at him. Park began the negotiations. Commander Ro, humanity is pleased that the Velcrin Empire seeks membership in the Galactic Coalition. We believe peaceful cooperation benefits all species. Peaceful cooperation, Ro repeated, his thin lips curving slightly. Yes, that is what we seek. But first we must understand each other better. Tell me, Ambassador, is it true that humans can survive injuries that would kill most species? Minho's hand moved closer to his weapon. That was an odd question for peace talks. Park maintained her diplomatic smile. Human biology is resilient, yes? Evolution on Earth required it. But we are not invincible, Commander. We bleed, we hurt, we die just like everyone else. Fascinating, Ro said. He glanced at something on his wrist display. A signal. Everything happened fast. The doors burst open. Velcrin soldiers poured into the room, weapons raised. Minho's security team reached for their guns, but they were too slow. Stun beams hit them and they collapsed. Minho drew his sidearm and put himself between the soldiers and Ambassador Park. Stand down, he shouted. More Velcrin entered, 20, 30, 50. They surrounded the humans in a tight circle. Minho kept his weapon steady, but he knew the math. Even if he was the best shot in the galaxy, he could not win against these odds. Not here, not now. Commander Ro stood slowly. Captain Kang, please lower your weapon. There is no need for violence. You call this peace? Park demanded, her voice sharp with anger. This is betrayal. This is necessity, Ro replied calmly. The Velcrin Empire must understand the Deathworlders before we can coexist.
You will be our guests for a time.
You will be studied, and then perhaps we will have true peace. Studied? Minho felt ice in his veins. They wanted to experiment on humans, learn their weaknesses. Use that knowledge for war. Ro gestured and his soldiers moved forward. Captain, your weapon, now. Minho calculated his options. If he fought, Park would die. His team would die. Maybe he could take 10 Velcrin with him, but what would that accomplish? He needed to stay alive. Stay close to Park. Wait for an opportunity. He lowered his weapon and let it clatter to the floor. Velcrin soldiers grabbed him, forcing his arms behind his back. They did the same to Park and the unconscious security team. Energy restraints locked around Minho's wrists. They burned slightly against his skin, They were marched through the station. Other aliens watched in shock as the human delegation was taken prisoner. No one intervened. The Velcrin had planned this perfectly, choosing a moment when coalition security was elsewhere. Outside, a massive warship waited, the Talon's edge dark and angular, bristling with weapons. They were loaded into a transport shuttle. Minho memorized every detail. Ship layout, guard positions, weapon types. Information was survival. As the shuttle lifted off, Minho caught a glimpse of Lieutenant Hana Cho. She had been with their communications team on another level of the station. Good. At least she had not been captured. She could send word to the coalition fleet. Help would come eventually. But how long would that take? Days? Weeks? Park leaned close to him and whispered. What do we do? We survive, Minho whispered back. That is what humans do best. The shuttle docked with the warship. They were dragged through narrow corridors. The ship was designed for Velcrin, not humans. Everything was slightly too tall, slightly too dim. The air smelled strange, metallic and cold. They reached a holding area. The guard separated them. Park and the security team were pushed into one cell. Minho was pulled toward another section of the ship. Where are you taking him? Park demanded. The captain requires special attention, a guard said with what might have been a smile. He is military. He is dangerous. He goes to maximum security. Minho did not resist as they led him deeper into the ship. He counted turns. Memorized the route. Maximum security meant more guards, better surveillance, stronger locks. It also meant he would be alone. Alone was dangerous for the Velcrin. They just did not know it yet. They threw him into a small cell and activated an energy barrier. Minho sat on the cold floor and began to think. The cell was 3 meters by 3 meters. Solid walls. One energy barrier for a door. Ventilation shaft in the ceiling. Too small for a human to fit through. Security camera in the corner. He closed his eyes and slowed his breathing. His instructors had taught him this years ago. A human could survive for 3 weeks without food, 3 days without water, 3 minutes without air. But a human could only survive 3 seconds without hope. Minho had hope. Because he had a plan, he would wait. He would watch. He would learn this ship inside and out. And when the moment came, he would show the Velcrin Empire exactly what a Death Worlder could do. Somewhere in the ship, in a command room filled with monitors, Ensign Boram Na watched the human prisoner on his screen. The creature sat perfectly still, eyes closed, breathing slow and controlled. It looked calm, almost peaceful. But Boram had studied Earth's history during his intelligence training. He knew what humans could do when they were cornered. He knew about their wars, their survival stories, their refusal to give up even when defeat was certain. He tapped his communicator. Commander Rowe, the human is secured. Good, Rowe's voice crackled back. Maintain watch. If he does anything unusual, report immediately. Understood, sir. Boram hesitated. Sir, are we certain this is wise? Earth will not accept this quietly. By the time Earth responds, we will have what we need, Rowe said. Do not question me again, Ensign. The connection ended. Boram returned his attention to the screen. The human had not moved. Still sitting. Still breathing. Still waiting. Boram felt a chill run through his body. Humans were patient hunters. Everyone knew that. On Earth, humans had chased their prey for hours, sometimes days, never stopping until the target collapsed from exhaustion. What happened when the prey was not an animal, but an entire warship? Boram did not want to find out. Minho waited 6 hours before making his move. He had spent that time learning the patterns. Guard changes every 4 hours. Security camera sweeps every 30 seconds. Ventilation system cycling air every 12 minutes. The Velcrin were efficient and predictable. That would be their downfall. When the next guard change happened, there was a brief moment when the old guard left and the new guard had not yet arrived. 17 seconds. Minho needed 15. He stood and pressed his bound wrists against the energy barrier. The restraints burned. Pain shot up his arms. Any other species would have pulled away. Minho kept pushing. Humans had a strange relationship with pain. They could endure it, use it, turn it into fuel. The restraints overloaded and sparked. The energy barrier flickered. Just for a second. That was enough. Minho slipped through and ran. His wrists were burned badly, but he ignored the pain. He had minutes before someone noticed. The corridor was empty. He found a maintenance panel and ripped it open with his bare hands. Inside were tools, spare parts, and a small emergency kit. He grabbed what he needed and kept moving. The ship's layout was a maze, but Minho had a good memory. He found a communications terminal and worked quickly. His fingers flew across the alien interface. He had studied Velcrin technology during the peace talks. Always prepare. Always learn. His instructors had drilled that into him. A voice crackled through the terminal. Minho, is that you? Lieutenant Hana Cho. She had managed to hide on the station. Hana, listen carefully. I need you to access the station's network and find this ship's blueprints. Send them to my location. Captain, what are you doing? Buying time. The Coalition fleet is coming, but we need 48 hours. I am going to give us that time. Sir, you are alone on a ship with 5,000 soldiers. This is suicide. Minho smiled grimly. No, Lieutenant. This is what humans call asymmetric warfare. Now send me those blueprints, alarms blared. They had discovered his escape. Minho downloaded the blueprints and destroyed the terminal. Then he disappeared into the ventilation shafts. The Velcrin searched for him. Teams of soldiers swept through every corridor, but they were looking for someone trying to escape. Minho was not escaping. He was hunting. His first target was the power distribution center on Deck 5. He crawled through the shafts until he found it. 2 guards stood watch. Minho waited until they were looking away, then dropped from the ceiling. He moved fast and silent. A strike to the first guard's nerve cluster, a takedown on the second before he could shout. Both unconscious in 4 seconds, Minho took their weapons and accessed the power controls. He rerouted power to create fluctuations throughout the ship. Lights flickered. Doors malfunctioned. Life support stuttered. The Velcrin panicked. They were not used to chaos. Their species valued order and control. Minho moved to his next target. On the command deck, Commander Rowe stared at his monitors in disbelief. Reports flooded in from all sections. The human was everywhere and nowhere. He struck without warning, disabled systems, and vanished before reinforcements arrived. How is this possible? Rowe demanded. He is one creature. We have 5,000 warriors. Ensign Boramna studied the damage reports. Sir, he is not fighting like a soldier. He is fighting like a predator. He is using the ship itself as a weapon. Then seal all sections. Flood the ventilation with sedative gas. Commander, our own crew is in those sections. The gas will affect them too. Rowe slammed his hand on the console. Then find him another way. Use the thermal sensors. We tried, sir. His body temperature is higher than ours. The sensors cannot differentiate him from the ship's heat signature. Rowe felt something he had not experienced in years. Fear. Minho struck again on Deck 8. He overloaded the lighting panels, creating blinding flashes that were painful for the Velcrin's sensitive eyes. While they stumbled around blind, he disabled their communication equipment and stole supplies. He found a medical bay and treated his burns. The supplies were designed for Velcrin biology, but Minho improvised. Humans were good at that. Their bodies could tolerate a wide range of treatments. As he worked, Hana's voice came through his hidden earpiece. She had been sending him updates every hour. Minho, the Coalition fleet is still 36 hours away. Can you hold out that long? I will hold out as long as it takes. They are adapting to your tactics. They have deployed combat drones. Minho finished bandaging his wrists. Good. Drones are just machines. Machines can be reprogrammed. He found the drones on Deck 3. Small flying spheres with weapons attached. They scanned the corridors methodically. Minho studied their patterns, then disabled one with a precise throw of a metal pipe. He dragged it into a maintenance room and opened its casing. Velcrin technology was advanced but not incomprehensible. Minho had always been good with machines. He rewired the drone's targeting system and sent it back into the corridors. The drone attacked its own kind. Chaos spread through the ship. The Velcrin could not trust their own security systems. They started shutting down automated defenses, which made them even more vulnerable to Minho's attacks. But Minho was tiring. 12 hours of constant movement. No sleep, little food. His body was strong, but it had limits. He found a hiding spot in a storage room and allowed himself 20 minutes of rest. He dreamed of Earth, of the training grounds where he had learned to fight. His instructor's words echoed in his mind. The enemy will always have more soldiers, better weapons, higher technology, but they will never have what you have. They will never have humanity's greatest gift. What gift? Young Minho had asked. The refusal to quit. That is what makes us human. That is what makes us dangerous. Minho woke after exactly 20 minutes. His internal clock never failed. He grabbed his stolen weapons and continued his campaign. Over the next hours, he struck at the ship's infrastructure. Water recycling, food storage, environmental controls. He did not try to kill. He tried to disable, to frustrate, to make the Velcrin feel unsafe on their own vessel. It worked. Soldiers jumped at shadows. Officers snapped at subordinates. Morale collapsed. The mighty Velcrin military machine was being destroyed from within by one human. Ensign Baramna watched it all unfold. He had been ordered to coordinate the hunt, but every strategy failed. The human anticipated everything. It was like fighting a ghost. He pulled up Earth's military history again. There were so many examples. Humans ambushing superior forces. Humans enduring sieges that should have been impossible. Humans winning battles through sheer determination. One phrase kept appearing in the records. Pyrrhic victory. A victory so costly that it might as well be defeat. Borum realized with growing horror that even if they killed the human, they had already lost. The damage was too severe. The psychological impact too deep. One human had proven that the Velcrin Empire was not invincible. And if one human could do this, what could 1,000 do? 1,000,000? Earth's entire military? The question terrified him. Minho's latest attack had disabled the ship's main cannon. He was making his way toward the brig where Ambassador Park and the others were held. According to Hana's intel, they were guarded by 20 soldiers. Heavy security. But Minho had taken down twice that number already. He was almost there when he made a mistake. A maintenance door that should have been unlocked was sealed. He had to backtrack. The detour put him in the open for too long. A patrol spotted him. Plasma fire lit up the corridor. Minho dove behind a support beam. The shots burned through metal. He returned fire with his stolen weapon, dropping 2 soldiers. But more were coming. He could hear their footsteps. He ran. The corridor opened into a large cargo bay. Bad terrain, no cover. The patrol emerged behind him, weapons raised. Minho turned to fight. A plasma bolt caught him in the shoulder. The pain was incredible, like being stabbed with a burning knife. He dropped to one knee. The Velcrin soldiers advanced, confident now. Their prey was wounded. This was over, but Minho did not fall. He reached into his stolen medical kit and pulled out a heat tool. He pressed it against his wound. The smell of burning flesh filled the air. The soldiers stopped, horrified. Minho cauterized his own wound. Then he stood up. His face was pale. Sweat poured down his forehead. But his eyes were clear and focused. He raised his weapon. "Let me show you what a Deathworlder looks like." The soldiers ran. Minho woke in the medical bay. His first thought was that he had been captured again. Then he saw Borum sitting beside the bed, monitoring the equipment. "How long?" Minho's voice was rough. 2 hours. "I gave you sedatives and treated your wounds. You should not have survived, Captain. Your injuries were severe enough to kill 3 Velcrin." Minho tried to sit up. Pain shot through his body, but it was manageable. "Where is Ro?" "Under guard in his quarters." He agreed to power down the ship's weapons and await the Coalition fleet. "But we have a bigger problem." Borum pulled up a damage report on his tablet. The ship was in critical condition. Hull breaches on 4 decks, life support failing in 3 sections. The reactor was stable, but barely. And worst of all, the structural integrity was collapsing. "The ship is dying," Borum said quietly. "Your battle damaged too many systems. We have maybe 4 hours before complete failure." "How long until the Coalition arrives?" 6 hours, Minho processed the numbers. They would not make it. The ship would break apart before help arrived. 300 Velcrin crew members were still aboard, trapped because most escape pods had been used during the false reactor alarm. "Evacuate everyone," Minho said. "Send out a distress signal. The Coalition will pick up survivors. There are not enough pods. We lost too many. At best we can save 100 crew members." Minho closed his eyes. 200 people would die. Velcrin soldiers, yes, but also engineers, medical staff, civilians. People like Borum who had nothing to do with Ro's plans. "No," he said firmly. "We save everyone." "Captain, that is impossible." "Nothing is impossible. We just need to buy more time." "Can we stabilize the reactor?" "Boost power to structural supports?" Borum shook his head. They had tried everything. The damage was too extensive. Minho thought hard. "What about a tow? If we can keep the ship together long enough, The Coalition fleet could pull us to safety with tractor beams. That would require reinforcing the hull attachment points. We do not have enough personnel to— Yes, we do. Every crew member who can hold a welding torch. Rose soldiers included. We all work together or we all die together. Borum stared at him. The human had spent 24 hours fighting these people and now he wanted to save them. You are strange creatures, you humans. Minho managed a weak smile. We are survivors. And survivors do not leave anyone behind. They went to work. Minho could barely stand, but he refused to stay in bed. With Borum's help, he made his way to the command deck. The crew stared at him as he entered. The human who had terrorized them for a day now stood among them, bloodied but unbowed. Minho addressed them in broken Velcrin. I know you fear me. I know you hate me. But right now, none of that matters. This ship is dying. If we do not work together, everyone dies. So I am asking you to trust me one more time. Silence. Then an older engineer stepped forward. You spared us when you could have killed us. You showed mercy. That is more than Commander Rowe ever did. Tell us what to do. Minho outlined the plan. Teams would reinforce critical hull sections while others rerouted power to structural supports. It was desperate. It was dangerous. But it was their only chance. The Velcrin crew sprang into action. Minho worked alongside them, ignoring his pain. Borum coordinated teams, his natural leadership skills shining through. Even some of Rowe's former soldiers joined in, realizing that survival mattered more than pride. Hana's voice crackled through Minho's earpiece. She had reached the Coalition fleet and was guiding them in. Minho, we are 3 hours out. Can you hold? We will hold. Just get here fast, the work was brutal. Welding in zero gravity, rerouting power through damaged conduits, racing against time as the ship groaned and shuddered around them. Several crew members were injured. Minho pulled a Velcrin engineer from a collapsing corridor, saving his life. The gesture was not lost on the others. 2 hours passed, then 2.5. The ship was holding, but barely. Hull breaches appeared faster than they could seal them. The reactor fluctuated wildly. They were running out of time. Commander Rowe watched from his quarters, his guards having joined the repair efforts. He saw his crew working alongside the human. He saw them following Minho's orders without question. He saw the respect in their eyes. Rowe had lost more than the battle. He had lost his people's loyalty. A massive shudder ran through the ship. Warning klaxons blared. A primary support beam had failed. The ship was tearing itself apart. Captain? Borum shouted over the noise.
We are out of time.
We need to evacuate now. Minho checked his display. The Coalition fleet was 20 minutes away. So close. No, 20 more minutes. We can make it. The ship will not last 20 minutes. Then we make it last. Minho redirected all non-essential power to the structural integrity field. Life support dropped to minimum. Gravity fluctuated, but the ship held 15 minutes. Another support beam failed. The ship tilted at a dangerous angle. 10 minutes. Explosions rocked the lower decks as systems overloaded. 5 minutes. The reactor alarm sounded. This time it was real. Then through the viewport, Minho saw them. Coalition warships dropping out of faster-than-light travel. Sleek and powerful, they moved toward the crippled Velcrin vessel. Tractor beams locked onto the ship. The Coalition vessels began a careful tow toward a nearby space station. The Velcrin crew cheered. They had survived. All of them. Minho collapsed against a wall. His body had nothing left. Borum caught him before he fell. You did it, Borum said, his voice filled with awe. You saved us all. We saved us all, Minho corrected. This was not about humans versus Velcrin. This was about survival. About doing what is right. The Coalition docked with the damaged ship. Medical teams rushed in. Minho was placed on a stretcher despite his protests. As they carried him out, Velcrin crew members lined the corridor. They did not salute. They did not cheer. They simply bowed their heads in respect. Ambassador Park met him at the docking port. She looked exhausted but relieved. Captain Kang, the Coalition wants a full report. The Velcrin Empire faces serious consequences for this incident. But thanks to you, war has been avoided. You showed them that humanity is not to be feared but respected. Minho shook his head weakly. I just did what anyone would do. I protected my people. No, Captain. You did what humans do. You fought impossible odds. You survived the unsurvivable. And when victory was yours, you showed mercy. That is why the galaxy will never see humans the same way again. As the medical team took him away, Minho caught one last glimpse of the Velcrin ship. Borum stood at the viewport watching him leave. The young ensign raised his hand in a gesture that was both goodbye and gratitude. Minho returned the gesture. The battle was over. But the impact of what had happened would echo across the galaxy for generations. One human had faced an army and won, not through superior weapons or technology, but through sheer determination, tactical brilliance, and the absolute refusal to abandon those who needed protection. That was the Deathworlder way. In the coming days, the story would spread. Alien species would debate what it meant. Some would fear humanity more than ever. Others would seek their friendship. Military academies would study Minho's tactics. Philosophers would analyze his choices. But for now, Minho simply closed his eyes and let the doctors work. He had earned his rest. He had done his duty. He had survived. Ensign Borum Na stood on the bridge of the damaged ship and looked at the stars. Everything had changed. His commander was in custody. His ship was barely functional. His faith in the Velcrin Empire's superiority had been shattered, but he had learned something more valuable than any military victory. He had learned that strength was not about domination. It was about protection, and the strongest beings in the galaxy were not those who conquered, but those who saved. The Deathworlders had taught him that. Borum made a decision. When the Coalition tribunals began, he would testify. He would tell the truth about Commander Ro's betrayal and Captain Kang's heroism. He would advocate for peaceful relations between the Velcrin Empire and humanity. It would not be easy. Many Velcrin would call him a traitor, but he had seen what happened when pride overcame wisdom. He would not let his people make that mistake again. He looked down at the datapad in his hand. A message from Captain Kang, sent just before the medical team took him away. Thank you for choosing the right side, Ensign. That took courage. If you ever need anything, Earth will remember what you did. You saved your people and mine. That makes you a hero too. Borum smiled. A hero, he did not feel like one. But maybe that was the point. True heroes never did. He saved the message and returned to his duties. There was much work ahead. Rebuilding, reconciliation, a new future. And somewhere in that future, humans and Velcrin would stand together as allies, because one Deathworlder had shown them the way. 3 weeks later, Minho woke in a hospital on Earth. The room was white and clean, filled with the soft hum of medical equipment. Sunlight streamed through the window, warming his face. It felt good to be home. A nurse entered and smiled when she saw he was awake. She called for the doctor, who ran a series of tests. Minho's injuries had been severe, but they were healing. Broken ribs mended, burns fading to scars. His body was doing what human bodies did best, recovering, adapting, surviving. You are incredibly lucky, Captain, the doctor said. Any other species would have died from those injuries. But humans? You people are built differently. Minho managed a weak smile. Built on a planet that tried to kill us every day. Evolution makes you tough. Ambassador Park visited him that afternoon. She brought news from the Galactic Coalition. Commander Ro has been arrested and will face trial for war crimes. The Velcrin Empire has issued a formal apology. But more importantly, they want to negotiate a real peace treaty. With you present. Me? Why? Because you showed them what humanity truly is. You became a symbol, Minho. The Deathworlder who fought an army alone and still chose mercy. The galaxy will never see us the same way again. Minho was quiet for a moment. He did not feel like a symbol. He just felt like a soldier who had done his duty. What about the crew? The Velcrin soldiers. All safe. Thanks to your actions, not a single life was lost after the battle. Well, except for pride. The Velcrin military is reevaluating everything they thought they knew about warfare. Lieutenant Hana Cho visited next. She had been promoted to commander for her role in the rescue. She sat beside Minho's bed and they talked for hours about the mission, the chaos, the impossible victory. I still cannot believe you fought for 24 hours straight, Hana said. The medical reports are insane. You should have died 10 times over. Death is just another challenge. Humans are good at overcoming challenges. Hana laughed. Only you would say something like that with a straight face. They talked about the future. About how Earth's standing in the coalition had changed. Other species were requesting human military advisors, human security forces, human expertise. The Deathworlders were no longer seen as primitive or scary. They were seen as valuable allies. A month after waking, Minho was well enough to travel. The Coalition had arranged a ceremony at their headquarters, a massive station orbiting a neutral world. Representatives from every member species would be there. Minho wore his dress uniform. His medals gleamed on his chest. He walked with a slight limp now, a permanent reminder of the battle. But he walked with pride. The ceremony hall was enormous. Thousands of beings packed the space, representing hundreds of worlds. They all turned to watch as Minho entered. The Coalition's head administrator, a wise old creature from a water world, spoke first. Today we honor Captain Minho Kang of Earth. His actions aboard the Velcrin vessel Talon's Edge have become legendary. Against impossible odds, he protected his people, defeated an army, and showed mercy to his enemies. This is the highest form of heroism. Therefore, by unanimous decision of the Coalition Council, we award him the Star of Valor. Applause erupted. Different species made different sounds. Clicks, whistles, hums, and roars blended together in a symphony of respect. Minho accepted the medal. It was heavy, made from metals harvested from every Coalition world. A symbol of unity. When asked to speak, Minho kept it simple. I did not fight for glory or recognition. I fought because my people needed me. That is what humans do. We endure, we adapt. We protect those who cannot protect themselves. If my actions have helped build understanding between our species, then the pain was worth it. More applause. But Minho noticed something else. Fear. Some species still looked at him with fear in their eyes. They had seen what one human could do. They wondered what 1,000,000 humans could accomplish. That would take time to heal. Trust was earned slowly. After the ceremony, Minho met with the Velcrin delegation. Ensign Boram Na led them, now promoted to ambassador. He had become the face of a new Velcrin movement, one that sought cooperation instead of conquest. Captain Kang, Boram said formally, then broke into a smile. Minho, it is good to see you recovered. They shook hands in the human way. And you, Ambassador. I hear you have been busy rebuilding. Yes, it is not easy. Many Velcrin still believe in the old ways, but every day more join our cause. They watched the recordings of your battle. They saw how you fought not to destroy but to survive, not to conquer but to protect. That changed minds. I am glad. The galaxy has enough war. We need more understanding. Agreed. And that is why I must ask you something. The Velcrin Empire wants to establish an exchange program with Earth. We want to learn from humanity. Your tactics, your resilience, your philosophy. Will you help us? Minho thought about it. Teaching former enemies. Building bridges. It was risky, but it was the right thing to do. Yes, I will help. Boram's face lit up with relief and joy. They talked for an hour, planning the future. A future where humans and Velcrin worked together. Where Deathworlders were not feared but respected. Where strength was measured not by the ability to harm, but by the courage to protect. That evening, Minho stood alone on an observation deck, watching the stars. Earth was out there somewhere, a small blue marble in the infinite darkness. Home. Hana found him there. Thinking about going back? Always, but there is work to do here first. The galaxy is watching us now. We need to show them what humanity truly represents. And what is that? Hope. No matter how bad things get, no matter how impossible the odds, humans never give up. That is our gift to the galaxy. That is what makes us Deathworlders. Hana smiled. They stood together in comfortable silence watching the stars. Across the galaxy, the story spread. In alien academies, professors taught tactics courses using Minho's battle as the primary example. Students analyzed every decision, every move, every moment of the impossible 24-hour fight. In bars and meeting halls, species debated what the Kronos Gate incident meant. Some argued that humans were too dangerous to trust. Others believed humanity's compassion made them ideal peacekeepers. In military installations, commanders updated their threat assessments. Human soldiers were no longer classified as average combatants. They were elite by default, their biology and psychology giving them advantages that technology could not replicate. But perhaps the most important impact was personal. Individual aliens who had feared humans now saw them differently. They read the accounts of Minho saving Velcrin crew members. They heard about his choice to spare Commander Rowe. They learned that strength and mercy could coexist. Earth's population celebrated their hero, parades, monuments, songs, Minho's face appeared on every news channel, but the man himself remained humble. He gave interviews and thanked his team. He insisted he was just one soldier doing his job. The truth was more complex. Minho had become a symbol of humanity's best qualities: courage, endurance, tactical brilliance, but also compassion, wisdom, the ability to see enemies as potential allies. 6 months after the incident, Minho returned to active duty. He trained new soldiers, teaching them not just how to fight but when to show mercy. He worked with alien delegations, building bridges between species. He became Earth's most effective diplomat, though he still considered himself just a soldier. The Velcrin Empire fully joined the coalition, with Borum as their representative. The first thing he did was propose a joint human-Velcrin peacekeeping force. The motion passed unanimously. Commander Rowe was tried and sentenced to house arrest. He spent his remaining years writing about his experiences, eventually admitting his mistakes and advocating for peaceful coexistence. His book became required reading in Velcrin schools. Years passed. The incident faded from immediate memory, but remained in history books. Children across the galaxy grew up hearing the story of the Death Worlder who faced an army alone. It inspired some to pursue military careers. It inspired others to study conflict resolution. It taught everyone that heroes came in unexpected forms. Minho eventually retired from active service. He returned to Earth, to the Korean peninsula where he had grown up. He built a small house in the mountains and spent his days in peace. But even in retirement, people sought his wisdom. Young soldiers, diplomats, scientists studying human biology, philosophers exploring the nature of courage. He welcomed them all and shared what he had learned. The galaxy sees us as Death Worlders, he would tell them. They think we are special because we evolved on a harsh planet. But that is only part of the truth. What makes us truly special is our ability to care, to sacrifice for others, to choose hope over despair. That is humanity's real strength. Never forget that. One day an old friend visited. Borum Na, now elderly himself, made the journey to Earth. They sat together on Minho's porch watching the sunset over the mountains. "Do you ever think about that day?" Borum asked. "The battle on the ship. Every day. Not the violence, but the choices. The moment when I decided to save everyone instead of just my people. That was when I understood what it meant to be human. You changed the galaxy, Minho. Humans and Velcrin are allies now. Dozens of other species have joined the coalition because they saw how we work together. Peace is spreading. We changed the galaxy, Borum. You chose to help me when it would have been easier to look away.